Most law firms say they serve the Hispanic community, but very few build an experience that actually feels like home. Today's conversation cuts past slogans and into real work, how a firm becomes a place where Spanish speaking clients feel seen, safe, and supported. This is the difference between a transactional practice and a community anchor. The person leading that shift in Colorado is Lisandra Matos. Her perspective isn't academic or theoretical, it's lived. She grew up translating for her family, navigating systems that weren't built for them, and carrying the weight millions of immigrants know all too well. That experience became the blueprint for how she built her own firm, bilingual by design, culturally familiar by intention, and structured around dignity, clarity, and human connection. She's also the force behind Arriba Las Mujeres and a social presence rooted in empowering Latinas and elevating her community. Today, she breaks down the three steps any attorney needs to take to make their practice feel like home for Hispanic clients. Lisandra, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I am so excited about this conversation. It's conversations I have in my brain every single day. So thank you for providing this platform for us to talk about this.
Totally. I mean, you walk the walk like we were talking about earlier before we started the recording. Tell us a little bit about what area of law you work in, where you're located, and namely why you decided to really focus on the Hispanic clientele.
Well, Hugo, I'm a personal injury lawyer in Colorado. We specialize in motor vehicle crashes. And my friends call me the modern day Robin Hood. I take from the rich and give it to the poor. And I just love the Latino community. Well, let me be clear. I represent everyone with the same passion, but the Latino community has a special place in my heart because every client that I serve reminds me of my family member. Rem- Sometimes they remind me of me when I was 14 years old and I couldn't speak English and I was mostly confused in this country.
Got it. Got it. Let's talk about why you chose personal injury. I mean, there's a lot of areas of law, especially those that immigrants need help with, namely immigration. Obviously, how'd you get focused in personal injury?
I think my personality kind of drew me to it when I was in law school. As a kid, I was that person that if somebody was making fun of someone in class, I would stand up for them. I was always a champion for the underdog when I was little. I specifically remember that I would sit next to the people that no one wanted to talk to when I was in elementary school or even my early days of middle school. And I feel like as an adult, I amplify that. My first day of law school, I sat in this class called torts. I had no idea what a tort was. But when I learned about negligence and how we could help people find justice and hold corporations are liable for this, I was sold. Since that day, every move I ever made in my career was to become a better personal injury lawyer.
I'm just curious, what percentage of your clients are Hispanic?
I would say about 80 to 90%. And there are some people, and sometimes they don't even speak English. I mean Spanish. Sometimes they don't even speak Spanish. But like for example, I did an interview in Fox, and the people calling me were Latinos saying, "Hey, you remind me of my sister," or you remind me of a family member, and they couldn't speak Spanish.
Right, right. So that's fascinating. So, let's talk about that because there's a few things that you're doing which we thought was pretty fascinating, which is why we invited you here, and we're so glad that you accepted. The first being your marketing approach, and it's part of the three things. Like our title says, there's three steps here. One of the steps that I found fascinating was that you certainly focus on community building around Hispanic females. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Again, it's about following your passion, being authentic, and you know, think of who you are as a person. For me, like it all comes back to my background. My mom, when she moved to this country, she's an accountant. That was her job in Cuba. And when we moved here, she started working at warehouses. Overnight, she worked at grocery stores. She put me through college. She put me through law school. She did amazing things with her life. And in my eyes, she's a superwoman. But one day I asked her, like, "Mom, like, are you happy?" And she was like, "Well, I'm very happy, but there's one wish I have, and that is to go work in an office, put high heels on, and go to work every day." And that's something I could never do because I never had a push.
Right.
And Arriba Las Mujeres, it's really my passion coming to light. It's my dream coming to life, creating that space that I wish my mom had back in 2002. Because in Arriba Las Mujeres, it doesn't matter where you come from. Once you go through those doors, you could be talking to a senator or, you could be a brand new immigrant. And it provides this platform where we can all talk to someone that is not necessarily in our circle and, create those opportunities for people.
That's great. So the takeaway that I have in terms of like the 3 steps here is like, it's about being part of a community, right? And I can hear attorneys already saying, "Oh, well, I'm not Latino, I'm not Hispanic. How am I supposed to do this?" You could totally do this. There are countless law firms across the country in a variety of practice areas where the attorney may not even speak that much Spanish, but they do a lot of great work in their own communities. That could be as small as, funding, let's call it a community soccer team, or being involved in Spanish radio as a long-term sponsor. There are so many different ways to get involved in the community authentically, and, yours, it sounds like it's direct line to one of your passions, which is, working with women and building up their careers and telling them that there's other ways to get career guidance. And I don't think attorneys put enough stock into saying, or they don't put enough time into thinking about getting and penetrating other communities that are aligned to their interests. So I couldn't agree more in terms of that being one of your 3 steps to build a successful law firm. The second one that I'm really curious about is the marketing overall. Um, you mentioned that your content calendar isn't really high volume. It's more very focused on spaced out quality posts over time. Can you talk about that?
Yes, yes, and of course, there has been a lot of trial and error, and we really listen to the audience, and numbers don't lie. So, when we first started really like focusing on social media efforts, we were talking to everybody. I was not being authentic. I was trying to be Gary Vee. I was trying to be, all these guys in the industry with a microphone and talking about like business mindset and all these things. And some friends would reach out to me and say, "Oh, that's cool. You're putting out a lot of content." But it wasn't getting traction.
Right.
And to be honest, I was not even enjoying what I was talking about because it wasn't where my passion was. And I feel like, in a way, my audience could probably feel my lack of passion. And also, the way that I showed up wasn't the best. And I was talking to the wrong people. So one day we were like, even Arriba Las Mujeres used to be called Women of Wine. And the women of wine, a lot of my friends would be like, "I don't drink, so I'm not going." Or, it was just the messaging was very confusing. You can't be everybody to everybody. You have to first have that conversation with yourself and say, "What excites me?" And start talking about that. And you're going to attract the people that are also excited about the same topics. So I started wearing red, which is my favorite color. Um, the logo for Arriba Las Mujeres became a red heel. We were worried at the beginning that no one could say Arriba Las Mujeres or that we would be alienating people. But now it's a whole movement of women who show up in red and in the comments, they have like the little red heel in the comments. And,
Mm.
you know, once you focus, there's so much power behind it. And
Right.
attention is important, and I don't wanna disrespect people by talking about things that I don't even wanna talk about them. Why would I be making other people listen to things I don't wanna talk about?
That's a great point. I mean, so it's about, you're focusing on the audience, so the content is going to be attractive to it really it really reminds me of Leo Wise. Are you familiar with Leo Wise in Texas? Where
I'm a follower, and man, I was like, "Wow, there's a Latina out there wearing red as well."
Yeah, no, she's great. I mean, I think her thing is more pink, and it's more focused on just general female empowerment, not necessarily focused on career. But I see this trend happening where you can grow your practice without necessarily talking about the law all the time. It's just being the person that's easiest to remember as a result of being more visible in the community more often. And that's exactly what you're doing. So right now with the social media that you're putting out, tell me about the staff that you have, the contractors or the virtual assistants that you have helping you craft the messaging, the posts, the captions, the video editing. Well, what kind of resources do you have supporting you for this?
Well, you might think I have a people here, but but really, I mean, when I first started thinking about marketing, it's a full-time job. I was doing marketing myself at the beginning because that all I had was me and my brain and and my time. But once I got so busy with my practice that I couldn't devote 40 hours a week to marketing, my first step was to hire someone full time to only think about how to market this law firm. And I, of course, like everything when you hire people, like, the first one may be okay, the second one may be good, and the third one was amazing. This is why I don't want anyone who doesn't have my background to feel discouraged about being able to make an impact with the Latino community because my marketing director, he's not Latino. His name is Matt Kennedy. I call him Mateo, but he doesn't speak Spanish, but he figured it out. He has all these tools that that allows him to have like captions in English, and you would never know that the mastermind behind Arriba Las Mujeres is our marketing director, Matt Kennedy. And quite honestly, he probably counts for 100 people because he can do everything. Well, that he says is mine too. But essentially, we have Matt, our marketing director, whose background is, well, he's a writer and a videographer and somebody who just can figure out anything. That's his attitude. And then the other side of it is our sales director, Ingrid Dominguez, and she helps us with the community outreach and, kind of putting that flavor. She's like our curator. She has the event and she's like, "Well, I think the ladies would really like having cupcakes with a logo or, things like that." And yeah, and she's just a force behind the whole team.
That's great. And how often are you yourself shooting content?
Not as much as I would like or not as much as my team would like, but we tried to do it in the past. We would do it once a week. It would be on Wednesday mornings. We would shoot content. That's when we were doing the volume game. When it became more like the other approach, more quality, a lot of my content is more like speeches that I do in real life, or it's not just me talking to a camera, it's me being out there in the real world and actually making an impact in the community because that's when I present myself better. I'm just too boring if it's just me and a camera.
No, I think we all think that. All listeners think that we're all born, but there's a reason that people watch, and they're getting some value of it, even if you don't know exactly what it is. Okay, well, this is fascinating. So let's go to the third step, because I think it's the one that's the least spoken about. Like we talk about marketing all day, digital marketing, social, videos, real stories, PPC, SEO, maps. It's like we talk about this stuff all the time. But the thing that I don't think is spoken of enough, and it's the third step here, is your office environment. It's like imagine investing millions of dollars in advertising, generating thousands of clients, and they all come to your office and they're like, "What the hell is this?" You turn them off. Like, how do you tell us about your awareness of like creating good office experience for people who speak Spanish and why that was so important to you?
I'm gonna start with a why, because everything we do, to do it well, you have to have a why behind it. And for me to explain it to my team, I don't just say this is what we're gonna do. I start with a why. So let's fast, or actually not rewind. Let's rewind. Let's go back to 2002 when I was 14 years old, new immigrant. I could barely speak English, but my parents could speak even less than me. And all of a sudden, I became my parents' accountant and translator. And we would go to places like the leasing office, the bank, and it would be like walking into this cold castle with things that you were afraid to touch because you would break them. People were judging you. And you constantly felt like less than. You never felt like a valued customer, or at least we didn't feel like valued customers who, were supporting that business. We felt like these weird people that were an inconvenience to the business.
Right. Right.
And just like feeling that feeling of like, wow, I'm not valued, and me trying to help out my parents and people not be really helpful, bothered by our presses and all that, shaped my attitude of what a business should be and what businesses are there for. So when I started the Matos Law Firm, my dream was to create the business that I wanted to be a part of when I was 14 years old. And, my mom still struggles when she goes to the bank and things like that. And I hope that when she walks through those doors, she's going to find a kind person who's going to be very patient and who will make her feel good. And that by the time that my mom leaves that interaction, that she feels like she was taken care of. Now, in the law firm, I always think of me in 2002, and I think of my parents. My parents don't use email. I always joke that I'm their secretary, but they're very proficient with WhatsApp, right? Um, they Zoom calls, it's not really their thing. They'll talk to their family members in Cuba with the WhatsApp video app, but when they're doing business and when something scares them, they wanna do the face-to-face interaction.
Right.
They can they cannot be rushed. If they have 10 questions and you only answer 2 questions because you're in a rush, they're gonna feel like you did not take care of them.
Yeah.
When they walk through the doors, my mom always says, "Mija, like, danger people, they they have low self-esteem because they're not the same, their bodies are not the same, their lives are falling apart. They need somebody to lift them up." So I always think of that, right? When somebody walks through the door, our job is to make them feel important, because guess what? There's no Matos Law Firm with our wonderful clients. They are very, very, very important, and it's crazy that as a business owner, sometimes people don't realize that, and they don't train their people to know that.
And I'm curious, you talk about training, like with do you because your clientele is overwhelmingly Hispanic, Spanish speaking, is it a requirement at your law office to speak Spanish? Is it being bilingual one of the requirements to work at your office rather?
If you're interacting with clients, you have to be bilingual. And not only that, I learned that you can't turn a triangle into a circle.
Mhm.
So it really starts with the hiring process. We have questions that we prepare, to interview people. And I always ask the last question. And I go off in Spanish. I pretend to be somebody going through a very difficult situation where I'm losing my house and it's all the attorney's fault because they're not taking long enough. And I start insulting the person like, you're not doing a good job. When people are hurt, sometimes like they don't talk to us in a happy tone because they're not happy. If you don't have happiness, you can't give happiness to other people. And I just act like the craziest client I can. I say, my name is Maria, and then I just go, and then I just watch how the job candidate interact with me.
Got it.
If they don't know how to handle that, if I see that they're nervous, it doesn't matter what their credentials are, they're just not gonna get hired at the Matos Law Firm. If they say things, I think I had someone tell me once, I was interviewing for to be a receptionist, and this person, her background was to be a bodyguard, or this security guard in another business. And she was like, "Oh no, if somebody talks to me like that, this is what I'm saying." And I was like, "Yeah, no, that's not gonna work." But or if they're not able to answer to me in Spanish in a conflict situation in a way that comforts me, then they can be hired to work here.
That's interesting. So it sounds like it's not just being bilingual, it's also having really solid customer service experience to an extent. What about for the law firms that like the attorneys who feel like their law firms don't have any Spanish speaking friendliness in their office? What's like a good first impression to make when a Hispanic person enters your client? Like, let's say they've already had a discovery call or an intro, like a initial call with intake. They've been invited to the law office for an in-person consult just to firm up, you know, just to receive a retainer agreement or to talk about the details of a retainer agreement. The Hispanic person enters the office. What is a great way to leave a first impression?
First, if they bring their kids, expect that they're going to bring their family members with them and their kids. Do not insult people's kids. If they show up with their 3 wonderful children, don't tell them that they can't bring them there. Like, that's a big no-no. I understand this is a business, this is a law firm, it's not a daycare, but, moms sometimes don't have backup, especially if they're injured and they're not working and they don't have extra money to pay babysitters. They may have a family member who had to drive them there. Be conscious that your clients may show up with their kids. I usually have toys. I have things for the little kiddos when they come. And, if you're nice as a Latina, if you're nice to my kid, I already really like you. If you're mean to my kid, oh, I'm running out. So first, accept the fact that we are very family oriented, and when we have problems, our family shows up for us. So expect that there will be a family member. Of course, we have to advise our client about, hey, you have attorney-client privilege. If you don't want someone in the room, they don't have to be here. But you know, just know that that support is important. Honor that. Understand that. Don't say things like, "Oh, like, no, this is my client. I'm ignoring that other person because that other person may be the advisor."
Right.
Also, when people come in, like in the Latino culture, like if somebody comes to my house, I give them snacks, I make them coffee, like when clients come to the Matos Law Firm, I feel like this is their home. Like somebody's walking into my living room. So I designed the space. Of course, I don't have like my coffee machine that I have at home, but I try to recreate that experience, like making sure that I'm offering water, coffee, snacks, making sure that they're comfortable. I have 2 big conference rooms to accommodate my client support system if they need them here. So it's not just speaking to them in Spanish, it's also honoring the culture and that this is a very family-oriented culture and that, you know, you get to be a part of it.
Yeah, that's a great point. I mean, so candidly, when I read the title of the podcast that, making it feel like home, I was like, long shot. I didn't really believe it, but the way you illustrated it, it totally makes sense. And it's come from lived experience. You're essentially building, you're a child of immigrants and you're building an office that your mom would be comfortable visiting.
Exactly.
Pretty fun. That's pretty fundamental. So amazing work. So let's recap the three steps that we talked about. It's one, market for quality, not necessarily content. And I understand that that may not be that isn't prescriptive. Like that's a perspective, right? It's just one of many ways to do this. Like you mentioned Gary Vee, that guy's posting a piece of content every 2 seconds, right? That may be great for your firm, but also to Lisandra's point, it may be just great to, like, space it out and double down on gearing quality content for specifically your community, which is number step 2. It's find a community, find an ICP that you know very directly and intimately and that you may be a part of, but that isn't, a requirement either. Like, you could also not be Spanish speaking or Hispanic and still be part of these communities. Um I think about, like, the attorneys nationwide who are, like, motorcycle attorneys who know the risk of riding a motorcycle and will never ride a motorcycle, but they're always at the motorcycle clubs. It's the same thing. Like as long as you're part of the community and you're showing yourself there, that is what's important. And the third one, I think it's what you said. It's making your office feel like someone's home. Like that's pretty compelling. It's not something that I think the larger mills can do, but certainly, like, you're a very local focused, community focused, um, participant, and it makes sense as to how you described it. You wanna make it for you wanna make it feel, like, comfortable for your family. Like, that's a pretty high standard. So thank you so much, Lisandra. Any final notes, for attorneys looking to break into the Hispanic market? Especially, let's be honest, the Hispanic ones that are probably not doing enough, for their own community.
I think that I have two pieces of advice for both ends. Like, if you are a Hispanic lawyer who feels like me when I was starting the practice back in 2014, um, you may be trying to be perfect. And, because in law school, they tell you wear black and a white shirt because that's why people trust you. And, in law school, they basically beat all of this out of you. For those lawyers, I tell them, just don't be afraid to be your authentic self. You're more powerful when you are, who you're meant to be, not when you're trying to copy a model that someone in a school told you that you have to copy. And once you follow with your heart, I mean, there was no SOP for me to follow to say how to be more Latina. Like, you just follow your heart and you treat people, with respect and the way that you want your family to be treated. And that makes the job really easy. Now, for our other um, friends who are friends of the Hispanic community, we need all the support we can get. We always need good lawyers. And just because you don't look like me, just because you may not have an abuelita, like force feeding you, just because, you may not know you may not have struggled as a 14-year-old trying to translate for your parents. Don't underestimate your power because, uh, we need love and Latinos need good representation. And I know that we always appreciate it when somebody from another culture makes an effort to understand us and, to do their best. So please don't be discouraged. Anyone can reach out to me if they have questions. I'm happy to share more of my experience. And yeah, let's just get more people serving the Latino community because, we're always better when we have more help.
Lisandra, thank you so much for hopping on today. If anyone wants to reach out to you, what's the best, way to contact you?
Well, if you love email, my email is lisandra at matoslawfirm.com. If you if you do better with social media, my preferred platform is at Abogada Lisandra on Instagram. So you can just send me a message there as well.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Lisandra, for joining us today, and to our team, who put together today's episode. Thank you very much. And until next time, bye-bye.